Well, hello everybody. Kind of a different setting. I'm actually in the office right now instead of at home. So, welcome to Tech and Cards, where technology meets sports cards. I'm your host, Mr. Brad Bethune. Wanted to do a show that brought my two passions together: technology and sports cards. Um, I just thought it would be a cool platform to meet people, to talk to people about sports cars, to talk to people about stuff that's happening in the industry, talk about technology, uh, talk about them separately and then put them together. A little bit about me: I've been 15 years in the IT industry, worked for companies like Cisco, Whiptail, NEC, HP, McAfee, and now Integris. In 2019, I got back into sports cards. 1988, 89, 90, 91. I collected and got back in 2019 thanks to Pete Alonso of the Mets. And you now know me, or some people know me as your Texas card dude. So I do that where I engineer on Hobby Hotline and Tuesdays and Saturdays, and on Twitter, Facebook, and Dallas Card Show, and all that entails. So typically, we're going to do 10 minutes on technology, or 10 minutes on cards, and then 10 minutes on technology, 10 minutes on how that kind of meshes together. However, once again, we're going to do things different because, I have to be different. I can't be hold to a standard. And if you read across the bottom of your screen, I'm going to bring on a gentleman who is super cool. What he's done, I hope you guys fall in love with as much as I did in a very short time. And it's Conner Walden, and it's CEO of BuySportscards.com. I want to make sure I get that right.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Brad.
Sure thing. How are you doing on this great, amazing, lovely day?
Good, good. Hey, I'm talking cards, so it really doesn't get much better than that. As you know, we unfortunately had to reschedule this a couple times just because I had been battling COVID over the last week. So
Yeah.
I definitely feel much better, and I'm glad to get back in and talking about what we're doing at BuySportsCards.com.
Yeah, and I'm going to give everybody just a little bit of context there. So, Connor, you are a co-owner of Mystic TCG.
Mhm.
You opened that. It's a mall. It's a store. It's a store, card store in a mall,
Yep.
and you opened that in July of 2021. Everybody, follow me on these dates, guys. Follow me on these dates because I just went wow when I actually found this out. So July 2021, he opened up this store, and then founder and CEO of BuySportsCards.com started March of 22. So y'all released in March 22. Now
Hmm.
you're also COO of ECS Automotive Concepts, and that's a family business
Yep.
as well. And then on top of all that, you had to like one up everybody. And congratulations on the new addition to the family, young 7-month old baby boy.
Hmm.
Wow, how many monsters do you have a day?
Not enough, I guess. I would say some days for sure, but no, that definitely covers it.
Yeah, that's a lot, man. That's a lot, and congratulations on all the success you've had so far.
Thank
And,
you.
and I'm sure you've had a couple of sleepless nights, but wow! When I started reading your story and when I started looking at the website, I kind of fell in love, and I just had to have you on. So thank you very much for hanging both in with us for the scheduling aspect of it. Um, so just really quick, let's do something fun. Let's do
Mhm.
something fun. I always like to start off with fun. Um, what's up in the hobbies? I want to ask you a couple of questions.
Mhm.
And we'll just do some chatting. Love or hate the fact that Prison Football 2021 released as late as it did?
Hmm. I would say from a collector standpoint, probably hate. I prefer to get stuff that I like as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the release date is an important thing. I would say the thing that disappointed me more was some of the things in the checklist or the size of the checklist,
Yep.
probably more than the release date. But I wish they would have gotten it out earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. It surprised me that they released Prism Draft Picks baseball in such quantity. but got Prism out. I digress. So Topps Cosmic Chrome.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is like they took one of their finest and then poured some sugar on it.
Yep.
So, yes or no on Topps Cosmic Chrome?
I like it. I think one of the things as I start to see more and more cards like on our website is that I think having a variety of stuff is really good. And I think that having different things that each person can like is important. I actually am kind of a fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know how it is. If you put it out there on Twitter, you'll get lots of different opinions.
Exactly. So here we'll go way back. We'll go food cards. Food
Okay.
cards, yes or no? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Uh, I would say probably thumbs down,
Okay.
honestly.
I see both sides. I'm a foods up guy, so I can
Yeah.
understand the thumb down. And then how much production is too much production of the cards? Because we're going to get a bunch of production that's about to come up.
Yeah. It's hard to have that question when you don't know exactly what the numbers are.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely something that's scary, especially in a down market. You have a lot of you know, people that are flipping or have cards that they had the intention of flipping that they're now down on, and it makes them a little less likely to want to jump out and buy the newest stuff. Um, I think that we may have started crossing over a little bit into overproduction, and I'm really hoping that Panini doesn't just slam the gas pedal to the floor here with these last couple of years of their license.
Yeah, I'm a little worried because I mentioned Prism Draft Picks Baseball. I mean, I'm a fan of the product. I like
Hmm.
it. Good looking product. I like it. Has that typical Prism feel. Has
Hmm.
all the elements, but it's everywhere. I
Yeah.
even saw it at Barnes and Noble. I saw it at 7-Eleven. I saw it I see it everywhere. So I'm a little worried that's the judge of the overproduction. I love the product. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I bought like 4 or 5 blasters and I opened them up. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But again, I'm a little worried about overproduction.
Yeah.
LeBron Logo Man sold for 2.14 million, and it was supposed to go for 6.6.
Yeah.
Ooh, so what do you think about that? I'll let you give yours, and then I'll give mine. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think probably a lot of that 6 million number was to get publicity,
Hmm.
which I understand. From a business standpoint, I think that Golden was trying to do the best that they could to do, especially in the down market where even high end card prices are starting to come down. That they want to do the best they could for their clients, and I think that that's okay. Um, I think that maybe that card could be symbolic of some other issues surrounding the hobby. I get a little worried when it becomes so money driven and there's not as much passion behind whether that be the products or the people that are getting into the cards. I think that sometimes will set people up for failure, and you see that a little bit right now with people that sunk a lot of money into stuff, thinking that these cards were something that they may not be.
Yeah.
Um, I think the other thing too is that's also important is the person who bought that card, they may be really happy with it. And I think that it's important for each of us in the hobby to understand that people have different budgets, they have different
Hmm.
preferences. And, it disappoints me sometimes when I see people come out with the pitchforks because it's like I collect things that I know other people don't care about and don't
Yeah.
like. And,
Yeah.
it's like, if they're happy with their purchase, ultimately, it shouldn't impact anybody else. They didn't ask for my money to finance it. So, it kind of is what it is. But I think that card is you could probably have a whole show talking about the
Yep.
different parts of the hobby and how people are reacting to it.
Well, I'm a big you do you boo. That was my catchphrase on my previous podcast was you do you.
Yeah.
My biggest concern is 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 it the hobby reset still in process, downturn, or recession? And I use that word. I don't use that word very mildly or flippantly because I
Yeah.
know what it means for the rest of us. Because I'm in sales. You own companies. That's not that's in the that's no bueno. That's no bueno.
Yeah.
But an adjustment of overinflation. I was a little worried when they came out with 6.6 because could the price be overinflated, or could we have the classic, pump and dump type situation? I don't know. The market has set the market. The market sets what the price is,
Yeah.
and the market has said that's a $2.4 million card. Now, I'm not a LeBron James fan. I'm not a huge basketball fan, so I look through it in full disclosure. I look through it through those classes where, for me, that's not like the Grail or anything like that. So I can understand where that's coming from. I just hope that we're really not going into a downturn. But cards will always be bought and sold. So
Yeah.
we'll always be. But we'll go to card shows. We'll buy cards online. Well, I mean, the hobby will continue. But what does that say for maybe a slow turn in recovery? That's my only small concern, but about that much. So, what do you think that's going to do, or how do you think that's going to affect the prices at the National?
Yeah, that's another one too. And I think kind of an example of what I hope doesn't happen, but I think might happen. It'll be very similar to the Dallas card show that I went to whenever Luca was playing really well in the playoffs, and it looked
Yep.
like they may have a chance to make it to the finals. And I went into the show thinking, wow, like Luca's going to be hot. Everybody's going to want Luca, but all the vendors had Luca. And, it kind of was one of those things where the people that wanted it had it already. And the people that were selling it, they had been stockpiling it in advance. And, that's kind of the rumblings that I hear. Some of the dealers that we talk to is everybody's saving their money for the National. But you're also seeing that, prices are continuing to come down online and people are finding good deals on cards. Atlantic City's difficult to get to for a lot of people, and it's going to be costly. So it's like for the amount that you may save on a show deal, you could probably just buy it online. And that's another thing is you have a lot of dealers that have sunk cost in these cards, and people don't want to take losses. They're hoping things bounce back. So I'm just hoping that it's kind of a healthy environment where buyers and sellers are both looking to interact, and that they don't set their expectations too high or too low for each other.
Yeah, buying cards online. I wonder if there's a place that somebody could buy. If there was only a place some person could buy.
I may know a place.
You might know a guy. I might know a guy.
That's right.
I've stashed some money. I've got a budget set aside. I've got some cards that I'm looking forward to. I'm hoping prices. I'm a selfish person right here. The cards that I'm looking for are not cheap, so I'm kind of hoping that I'm able to buy a little bit more because my money will stretch. But again, as a salesperson, as someone from looking at it from not just a hobby but business, I worry about the guys that have spent money at the table, that's got money in the card. Because I'm a dealer as well. I've got. I mean, brutally honest, about 13. You're going to laugh when I'm going to admit this, guys, and you can full well laugh at me. About 13 blaster boxes of Gypsy Queen when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
Guess how many boxes of Gypsy Queen that I still have? 13.
Yeah.
I priced them at the previous show that I was at last weekend at $15 a blaster, and they didn't move.
Yeah.
I'm $10. $10. I'll keep lowering the price because I can use that money for something else. But that's my biggest, and that's my biggest concern. I understand 100%.
Yeah.
How do you collect? How do you collect?
Yeah, so that was a big thing for me, and I know you mentioned it kind of at the beginning of the show with having, a company of my own now. Well, two really with my store that I co-own, and then having a young son. Collecting is still an itch that I need to scratch, but it gets to be different stuff that you've got to try to collect.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the set I'm collecting right now is 2004 Upper Deck Power Up. It's kind of an oddball set. I really like it. it brings me back to a time when I was 7 or 8 years old, walking into Quick Trip and Target and some of these different places and being able to buy packs and open them as a kid. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying before, is that people collect different stuff and like different stuff. And you probably have a hard time finding people that are collecting that besides me, but that makes it awesome for me because it's a set that I have a nostalgic tie to. It brings back memories for me every time I get a new one in the mail or I open, some sealed packs or boxes that I'm buying online. The price point is really cheap.
Mhm.
You can get the 1,000 point card, which is basically like the rarest parallels. I'm picking them up for 10, $20.
Oh my gosh,
Um,
yes, all
yeah,
day
and so
long.
yeah, and so it's like I'm trying to get every parallel color of the base set, and it's about 800 cards between the football and baseball. And it's like I'm getting stuff, $2, $3, $4 a card, and so I'm getting tons of cards I like that I think look good and they're cheap. So it kind of checks the three boxes for me of being good looking, having a emotional tie to it, and not spending a lot of money. That's kind of where I'm at right now in my collecting journey, and I'm having a good time. Honestly, more fun than spending a lot of money on stuff that I really don't care about.
Yeah, I'll give you one of my friends, Herman 3B. He just thought for each one of his uh, uh, children and grandchildren, he has built a set of Topps flagship for every
Hmm.
single year.
That's
So
awesome.
just a little like bit because newborn son, 2021, 2022 just came out. We're about to get so you can still go back and get stuff relatively cheap.
Yep.
It's kind of a neat and way to kind of build on. Nod to you, Herman. So I haven't forgotten about you. Still love you. But
Yeah.
pretty cool idea. So
Hmm.
last I saw, y'all had 1.85 million cards on your
Hmm.
marketplace. So tell me about the goal for where you're supposed to go. We talked about this a little bit, and I really think people need to understand the speed and the growth which y'all had. Or you know what? Let me back that up. Let me back that up. I'm going to go a little bit. So marketplace is vibrant. It's very smooth, very responsive, easy to use. It, and it feels like to a new user and to somebody that completely fresh eyes in. It looks like you took the big three and you took the best out of the big three, fixed their errors, and came up with buysportscards.com. Can
Hmm.
you tell me a little bit about the thought process of how that happened?
Yeah, no, that's a really astute point by you, and it speaks, to your technical background and your understanding with some of this stuff because we didn't talk about this before. But one of the things that was important to me, not only within using sites as a person that uses cards, but it's like I've sold on eBay, I've sold on TCG Player,
Mm-hmm.
I've sold on Shopify,
Yep.
Amazon, all of the different sports card marketplaces I've used as a buyer or seller. And so one of the things that I wanted to do early on was to go back to all of these sites and start with the homepage and say, okay, what are the different elements that all of these sites have on the homepage? Because you got to think that Amazon and some of these places have spent a lot of time, saying, okay, this is the most effective use of the space. And so I went through, Alibaba, all these different, Chewy.com, just go down the line of any e-commerce site and said, okay, what are some of the elements that they all have that are the same? And made sure that we had those. And then I went through and said, okay, now here's where they all are a little bit different. And then as a user, what have been the different features that I've liked of a homepage on Chewy versus a homepage of eBay? And so going through all of those different things helped me to kind of take the pieces and parts that I liked about each of those sites that I thought provided the best experience and making sure that we considered sports cards because that's all we're focusing on the site and putting those together and making it really the best experience possible. And so, there's a Steve Jobs quote where he said, good artists copy, great artists steal. And really in the idea behind that, it's not stealing as in like taking something, but it's taking something and iterating on it and making it yours. And so that's really what we look to do within sites that are currently in the sports card market, but also actually probably more that are outside of it.
Yeah. Uh, I can't stress enough. Like the simplicity of the site is it's almost, I've been trying for 24 hours to come up with a word, and the word that keeps popping up is beautiful.
Me too.
It's
Yeah.
simple. The colors are vibrant. It's when I first jumped on, I went, wow, I didn't even know that I needed this, and now I need it.
Yeah.
It the ability to find stuff, the nomenclature that Dr. Beckett tried to establish back in the 80s. You fix that with standardization of language. The the colors are eye appealing. One of my most favorite parts is the yellowing of the numbers. So all I have to do is look at the page and I can scan very quickly because all my brain's looking for is yellow. And I
Yeah.
see yellow, boom. The rookie cards are marked RC in red. If you're just looking for rookie cards, you can scan very, very quickly to
Yeah.
see which rookie cards are. Um, what the 20, like I found 20-cent cards on there. I mean, how awesome is that to find 20-cent cards? I found one all the way up to like 150, but you're talking about collectors that
Yeah.
this is geared for. Not, yes, you can resell, and yes, you need sellers to be able to have inventory for buying, but it's geared towards the collector.
Yeah.
It's very, very beautiful, very beautiful. Um, I did want to ask you. There's a part about the features, though.
Hmm.
At the right below the fold, or right above the fold, there's a features aspect of it. Are you using cookies? So as I find cards that I like, you're kind of matching what's in the inventory to be able to show those features.
Yeah. So right now, that's not something that we're there may be stuff that's being collected right now, but it's not stuff that we're really utilizing at this point. And that's one of the things, going back to what you said. Um, I actually read the Steve Jobs biography. I know I just quoted it before, but one of the things that he talked about was simple is the ultimate sophistication. And
Yeah.
it really kind of comes back, the same concept that to be able to explain something to somebody, you really have to be able to understand it. And so we wanted to simplify the site. One of the things that's always frustrating is even on a site like eBay, that's, a 30, 40, $50 billion company, that you've got to go in there and put the minus sign and to remove terms from the search and all of these things. And it's like, you know, uh, there is better ways to do stuff. I mean, technologically, it's possible, but a lot of the companies that have existed for a while haven't been pressured with new entrants, and they've
Hmm.
kind of been complacent, and there's
Yep.
not really any reason for them to improve. And so I'm like, I know we can do a better job. And so there's a lot of things on the website that right now we're not necessarily utilizing the user data for, but as we get more users on the websites, it'll be a lot easier for me to sit there and say, Brad, I can tell based on your purchase history, based on how long you're looking at certain cards or what your searches are, here's cards that we would recommend for you. And it'll start to hopefully expand kind of your palette as a collector, because
Yeah.
there's about 14 million cards that have ever been created, sports cards going back 150 years. You look at players that you may like have anywhere between 20 and 100,000 different cards when you consider all the parallels. And you could be the biggest collector, of Albert Pujols, but ultimately you're not going to know every card that's ever been created for him because there's not really been a digestible way for you to find them. And
Yeah.
so that's really where I think that we exceed a lot of the other sites out there, is because we do utilize technology. And as we get more users and more data, the way that we've formatted the site, the organization that we've provided, gives us tons of user insights to provide a good experience, similar to how Amazon can do things for you,
Hmm.
and make suggestions for you. And it kind of becomes a lifesaver in a lot of regards.
Well, and in the back of my head, and I'm sure other people are doing it, bells and whistles and AI, you're learning and what are you doing with that data and what are you doing with blah, blah, blah. But think about this. Think about it this way, guys. If you're new into the hobby and you don't know about 2004 Upper Deck Power Up or 1934 Gaudi or any of these other, you don't know because you're doing the hobby. what you typically do is you go into a hobby store and you start like asking, you start asking questions. Well, the features aspect and then kind of learning for a new person, if he gets presented with a card that he doesn't know anything about, how cool is that? How
Yeah.
absolutely cool is that? It gives that community, it adds that community feel and function to it, which I absolutely love. Absolutely love. Um, let's go into one of the things I wanted to talk about was how do you I know how to buy it on the site. I mean, I could explain it, but I've only bought like one or two cards so far.
Hmm.
Can you give me more of an easier, like a breakdown on thought process on how you wanted the customer experience to be?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things that I always thought was frustrating, like I said, I'm going through 2004 Upper Deck Power Up right now, is when you look for specific cards, because eBay is really kind of the king at this point. It's where most people are buying and selling. They have the most eyeballs. Um, but it really is more reminiscent of like an online garage sale. And in
Hmm.
a lot of regards, it's really a mess. And so one of the things, a lot of these benefits for our site versus other sites out there are two sides of the same coin. And so everything starts with the organization. So by having the checklist and the data as the foundation of the website, it makes it really easy now because when you get on to list, a 2020 Topps Wander Franco card, we already have all the information entered for what's specific to that card. All that you're entering, which is only about 10% of the actual work, is saying whether or not the card's raw or graded. If it's raw, what condition is it? If it's graded, who graded it? What score did it get? What price do you want to sell it at? What quantity do you have that you want to sell? And then you have the option to put your own photo if you don't want to just use our stock image. So you can always put your own pictures. And so by doing that, it really reduces the steps a lot.
Gosh.
And what it does then for the buyer at that point is that for the buyer, the same thing is now it's organized and there's a centralized product page. And so if I have that Wander Franco card listed and Brad has it listed, and you go search that card and click on it, you'll see everybody on one page that's selling it. And you can go through and filter between raw and graded and all of the different conditions. So now you don't have to go through and click on 100 auctions or 100 buy it nows and then go look at the pictures and then read the description and then go scroll down to the bottom of the page and see what the feedback is and all of these things. We have it all in one spot so that you can easily scan it and it saves a lot of time. And so the whole idea behind buying on our website is how can we make it as easy as possible to buy and sell cards, because it ultimately does not help you as a seller if the facilitator of the marketplace makes the process so rigorous that 5 minutes into looking for something I just say screw it, I don't even care, it's too difficult. And so we've really used it as the north star of our business, and everything that we focus on is how can we make the process of buying and selling easier, because as a buyer you're going to be a lot happier if you don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops that make it difficult. And then sellers will also be happier because the conversion rate actually becomes much higher now. If I can get, within 20 seconds of filtering through all of these things, I can get to a specific card or even less. I'm going to be much more likely to buy it now than I would be if I have to go spend a day trying to find it.
Yeah, one of the really cool, awesome, amazing things that I liked. I don't know if it was other site influenced, but I typed in Nolan Ryan cards. Very,
Hmm.
very simple. If I'd have done that on another platform, it would have been a nightmare to try to go through. Well, all I had to do was look at pictures, and
Yeah.
all I had to do was look for yellow, and all I had to do was look for red, and that was it because I specifically. And really cool on the left side, you got drop downs. So if you want serial numbered, if you want relics, if you want like it's very simple. It took me from knowing okay, I wanted to buy a couple of cards. I wanted to look at Nolan Ryan. I wanted to look at Emmett Smith, two guys
Hmm.
that I PC. Where it would normally take me anywhere from like 2 to 3 hours on another platform, I did it in less than like 10 minutes on yours,
Yeah.
and I got two really really cool cards. So thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. And
Thank
then
you.
I cannot, I cannot like the time to list a card in under an hour, and I'm not straight like it's taking me an hour to do a listings on another platform,
Hmm.
but to do it in less in just thank you, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, that's a good point. And yeah, we have, right now, we have people that are listing, 100, 120 cards in it probably in an hour. And we're also working on a mass upload tool where you'll be able to go through a specific checklist. So if you had a bunch of cards from 2022 tops, you can just go down the checklist, entering all the information, and that will allow you to list, a couple hundred cards in a few minutes. So it and and going back to what you said, it really enables people on right now on eBay with it being a 99-cent minimum. There's a lot of cards that are worth less than 99 cents, and that's okay. And that doesn't mean people don't want them.
yeah.
And so, if you make it easier by using reference images, so if it's a 25-cent card and they don't want to take a picture, they just want to use a stock photo, you can do that. If we get to the point where we finish this mass upload, which should be done in a month, I would think, um, it's going to really enable sellers now to access a certain part of their inventory that's been sitting in boxes and in their closet or in their basement, and get them out there to the world and make sure that they can find a happy home, because there's people looking for these cards, and it's really frustrating that there's kind of these limitations that are really arbitrary that have been put in place, whether that be the 99-cent minimum or just the fact that it takes 5 to 10 minutes to list a card that's 25 cents, because nobody's going to do it if it's that
Hmm.
hard.
Oh yeah, oh, yeah. Um, Talk to me a little bit about what are like the relationship and the thought process behind the shipping. And
Hmm.
the reason why I'm asking is because on other sites, you can use your own shipping, you use their shipping, you use whatever, but the ability for the sellers to not have to worry about that. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So one there's kind of two prong approach on this. So the first thing being, we don't actually take possession of any of the seller's cards. And so with me having a store, me having set up in the past at shows, whether that be with a booth or walking around, it's nice to have flexibility. There's nothing worse than having to send your cards to a place. If you want the flexibility to be able to turn them off and turn them on, if you're sending them somewhere and it takes months to get them back out of their system, I understand from their perspective why it takes long, but it doesn't give you the ability to say, "Hey, this card hasn't sold yet online. I'm going to a local show on Saturday. I'm just going to turn it off or take it off my inventory. See if it sells the show. If not, then I can go flip the switch and turn it right back on." It really provides kind of an omni-channel and really brings it up, to the
Yeah.
21st century. And you know, I didn't want my stuff to be sent places where I'm going to be charged, 50 cents per card, and then 5 cents to take it out of a top loader, and then a storage fee, and then a cash out fee, and all of these things. It becomes very convoluted, and I don't even know what the expenses at that point are. So we allow our sellers to keep all their cards in their own possession. Possession is 9 tenths of the law. I want you to have your stuff. I don't want you to feel like some vault out there has all of my things, and they claim to do this and that, but I'm not really sure what's going on there.
Yeah.
And so we allow everybody to keep their own stuff. We also did built-in shipping, so we have negotiated rates with USPS where when you make a sale on our website, we actually have on the order page that you can go through and print labels using our negotiated rates. And it allows you to do it all in one place, because one of the things that always is frustrating for me is if you're not selling on eBay, um, there's not another site in the sports card market that has built-in shipping available. And so you're going to have to use some sort of a third party, whether that
Hmm.
be stamps.com or somebody else. And the more that you ask users to leave your website and go to other places, it becomes frustrating.
Yep.
Um, and so that's where I'm like, we're going to do it kind of what I think is the right way. If we want to compete with a site like eBay, we need to do the things that they do well. We're trying to get the standard envelopes and some of that stuff that eBay has now as an option. Not everybody likes it, but ultimately, like I said, we really just wanted you to have complete control over the experience of shipping your cards. It may be something at some point where we offer a service for people that don't want to have to do it all themselves if they want to outsource it. Um, but right now, we're allowing you to keep all your cards, ship all of your cards. That's always going to be something you'll be able to do. And we have built-in shipping functions that make it really easy for you when an item sells to ship it out to the end user.
Yeah. You talked about this in another interview, but this is self funded, it's non monetized, and there's no fees to sell.
Mhm.
Wow. Thank you, first off. But can you talk about it, like non-monetization on the site whatsoever? There's no ads, there's no pop-ups, there's not anything like that.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about that thought process, and then about the non-monetization right now?
Sure. Yeah. So the first part being it being a self-funded website. So this isn't something where I'm necessarily a religious zealot and that we would never take help from anybody. But one of the things, because we never approached anybody from the very beginning, never took a loan. I've used all of my own funds for this. It was really important to me to be able to build what I had the vision for and what I thought was necessary to be in the hobby. And the experience that I've had having my own business, having friends that have done VCs, is that a lot of the times the actual intention of the people that found the company or the end goal for the users is often, I say kind of bastardized,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really diluted and polluted. And the end result is not at all what the people who got into it wanted to do it for. And
Right.
so I was really worried that if I took money from somebody, they were going to begin to push on me and say, you need to squeeze users and cut corners and do this. And as being in IT and being in business, there's a huge difference between a product that you can tell was built with passion and thought behind it versus one that's just out there to collect as much money as possible. And you see that with a lot of the sites, because if you look, their whole business model is how can we give users as little as possible and how can we take as much as possible for that? Because at the end of the day, taking as much as possible is their revenue and
Right.
the output is their expenses, and the biggest gap means the most profit. And so ultimately I said, I have the means to be able to do this. I have the passion for it. And so we're going to do this kind of ourselves. We're going to self-fund it and build it out that way. And I think we ultimately were able to build a really great product that, exceeded the expectations that I had and the other people on the team. And I think same thing for our users, that they've been very happy with it. Going to not having any sort of fees or advertisements on the website, it's not going to be a charity forever. So I know a lot of people get worried and they say, if it's free, where are you making money? We're not making any money at all right now. So there's no sort of final sale fee. There's no membership fee to sell on the website. There's no insertion fee for listing cards. I'm not selling anybody's data. We're not doing advertising. There's no monetization at all. I really needed to make the website as easy as possible to hit critical mass, because it's a chicken and egg. If you don't have buyers, how are you going to get sellers? If you don't have sellers, how are you going to get buyers? And so my thought was, I know we've built a really great product. I know people are at times skeptical to try new things. So by making it free, it reduces the friction to the lowest possible and said, just try the website. It's no cost to you. I really believe that we've done a great job. I think once you use it, you're going to want to continue to use it. But if you get on and you don't like it, there's no sort of commitment, and we didn't make a penny off of you. So, um, it's kind of one of those things where getting people through the door is the most important thing for us right now. And by having it be completely free, um, it's doing a great job of that. And we're also getting a lot of word of mouth. And, you know, I also look at it from the perspective, I could take a few percent from you and turn around and spend it on a bunch of Facebook ads and banners on websites or whatever else. Um, but if I'm taking money from you and giving it to Facebook or Google, that's pulling money out of the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not keeping it in this ecosystem. So I'd rather put a little bit more money in your pocket as a seller and then have you go tell a friend and bring them to our website. Because at the end of the day, that's going to be a much better testimonial than a Facebook ad that doesn't seem to leave you alone.
Well, yeah. I mean, the hobby is the people. There you go,
Yeah.
Newman. Hello, Newman. Uh, and honestly, I found your site again, word of mouth. I was having lunch with Eric Norton. He mentioned it to me, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Waited a couple of days, did some research, saw you on the colors and the simplicity hit me first, and then I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, I really need to. I dug further into it, but yes, word of mouth has worked, will work, continue to work. So,
Yeah.
like, are you going to be at the national? Because I want to come shake a paw. I want to come shake a paw.
Yep. Yeah, I'll definitely be at the National. I'm
Okay.
actually really excited to go now that we have the site live. Last year, um, it's hard to get people to buy into something that doesn't exist yet. Whenever you have that thing that's really, you see it in your head, you're spending day and night building it. Last year I was there and I had a lot of excitement and I talked to a lot of people. Um, a lot of people, I think my passion got them excited. But then there's a lot of people that are, I mean, I'm from the show me state. So everybody says, you're gonna have to show me. So there's a lot of those kind of people too, where they're like, yeah, we've heard everybody say that they're going to do this, but nobody's done it at this point. And so to be able to go back now to the national and say, guys, look what we've built. It'll provide you a lot of value, whether you're a buyer, whether you're collecting, or whether you're looking to sell cards. And then the other thing too, like you said, is just getting out and talking to people. I've been to a lot of these conventions, and I really try to make a distinction between it being a business meeting for me and actually, being there on the ground floor and talking to people. Because sometimes my worry is that different businesses, whenever they get to a certain point, they kind of go into their ivory towers and they disappear kind of on the industry, and they don't really know what people want. And that's why I think you look at a lot of websites that are popular still that have been out 10, 15, 20 years, that they look 10, 15, 20 years old, and they haven't kind of improved in some of the ways that they should have. And so we want to make sure that we're out actually talking to people and getting feedback. So I'm really excited from that perspective.
Okay, so what you're saying is you want everybody to come up to you all at once at the national and shake a paw. Got it.
Yep. I only
And
got
then,
two, but I'll do my best.
and then you did say you do come to Dallas, the Dallas card show. So
Yep.
how often do you come down here and able to shake a paw there?
Yeah. So I've been going to every Dallas card show for probably the last, I don't know, 6 months or so.
Hmm.
And so I'm hoping to be able to make it down this one before the national. I gotta double check on my schedule,
Yeah.
and see kind of the conflicts with some of that stuff. Like you said, with me having a young family, it gets a little harder. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, being in St. Louis, I make sure I make it out to the Chicago shows. I was in Chicago and Indianapolis in the last 2 weekends. I'm trying to make it to as many places as I can. I think it's really important to get out and kind of spread the word.
Yeah. No, we had talked about. I really want you to tell your running story. We were talking off air about this because I'll put it in the context. I read a tweet where you said something about gluten free. I'm gluten free. I was like, yes, somebody else that understands my pain because I love bread. By the way, it's not a
Mm,
choice. It's because I have to.
yeah.
And he said, no, I don't do gluten free, but and I'll let you go from there.
Sure. Yeah. So, any, you know, I feel like I have a lot more respect, even though I think that I would not have built by sportscards.com if I felt like the other sites out there met the need, or were really even that close. If it was one or two things, I wouldn't have done it. So, um, ultimately, though, I have a lot more respect for the people that have built it and now having built my own site, because it's very hard. And so early on building the site, probably a little over a year ago, I had COVID and I went running shortly after that, and I was planning on running a mile, and I kind of quit. Part of it was hard to breathe and everything else, but it was hard. And at that point, I said, if I quit on this, something as simple as running a mile, I'm about to be a father. I've just been married. I have this business now that I'm doing. If I quit on something like this, I'll never be able to be the person that I want to be in business and life, whatever. So I started running more and more. And, I typically run without music. And I went from running, a mile each time to running up to 10 miles. And ultimately for me now, that it's really made me much more mentally tough. And so when I'm sitting there and it's, 3 or 4 a.m. and I'm working on stuff on the website, it it's a lot easier because it's like, well, at least I'm not cramping up or my knees are hurting or whatever else. And it forces me outside of my comfort zone and be able to push. And I think that that's really important. And something that I learned. I ultimately hope buysportscards.com is very successful and it provides the experience that I think that buyers and sellers deserve in this market. But it's been a huge, huge personal growth, for me to be able to push through adversity because it's been very hard. I mean, like you said, I could have tried to get outside funding for this. I could have tried to sell out our company. I could have went and worked for somebody else and made a lot of money doing it. But we did the hard things. Unfortunately, you can't 80/20 everything. The
Yeah.
old 80/20 principle is you do 20% of the work and you get 80% of the value. But there are things where you need to do that last 20%, and it may take 80% work to really do it right. And so that's the way we've tried to build the business. And even outside of the things that we're doing every day in this, I've tried to really push myself and and put myself into situations of adversity because it's hard. And, you've got to continue to push through to really be able to have great results.
Yeah, well, Connor, I'm gonna let you go. I really appreciate the time that you spent. All the socials are down below of how to reach you. I love. I said it before. I love your Twitter, home of the hobby. But I really want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I know time is valuable, especially when you got like as much as you have going on. But everybody, please buy sportscards.com. Fantastic website. Please, please, please give it a chance. Um, I think you'll love it as much as I do. So I
Awesome.
really appreciate it. Thank you very, very, very much.
Yep. Thanks for having me on, Brad. I'd love to be back too in the future with updates.
Sure thing. Have a great one.
Yep. You too.